Y'all, today we're going to talk more about transversals and how they intersect lines. But this time we're going to talk about what happens when those lines that are intersected are parallel to each other. So just remember that parallel means that the two lines will never cross. And we do have a way to show parallel on a picture without actually saying they're parallel. So we show that by putting arrows on each of the lines. So I could have one arrow. Sometimes you'll see two. So if I have two lines that have the same number of arrows somewhere on the lines, not at the end, but somewhere on the lines, that means those lines are parallel. It means they'll never touch. And so you should have seen some pictures like this in the lesson last time. And we have a transversal, so this line here that intersects both those parallel lines, it's still our transversal. And so when the lines that are intersected are parallel, we have some special angles that end up being congruent. Remember, congruent is our sort of geometry way to say equal. And that's our symbol, the equal sign with the little squiggly on top for congruent. So when the two lines that are intersected are parallel, alternate interior angles are congruent, alternate exterior angles are congruent, and corresponding angles are congruent. They should look congruent. They should look like they're the same size, and that's because they are. And so we can say that angle X in all of these is congruent to angle Y, which also means that the measure of angle X is equal to the measure of angle Y. So the congruent thing is mostly about like shape and size. So they're the same shape, they're angles, and they're the same size. And then equality is about their measure, if we actually know the value of their measure. So let's say if this one is 47 degrees, then this one is also 47 degrees. All right, they're going to be the same. And that's really helpful when we're trying to figure out how big some angles are and we only know pieces of a picture. Again, here I have some parallel lines and our transversals. Transversals, the ones that intersect the other lines. And so when the transversal intersects two parallel lines, we have some special angles that are supplementary. Remember that supplementary means add to 180. Okay, angles that are supplementary and share a side are linear pairs, and these are angles that are not next to each other, but they still add to 180. So our same side interior angles add to 180, and our same side exterior angles add to 180. So one thing that I usually will say to people is we sort of have an alliteration here. Same side supplementary. So our two same side relationships end up being supplementary when our lines are parallel. And so we can say that the measure of angle X plus the measure of angle Y is equal to 180. So we have three types that are congruent, and we have two types that are supplementary. And so of course we'll use that information to solve some problems. So here we want to, first we want to name the angle pair relationship. It's always important to decide what relationship exists here. So I have this angle that's 63 and this angle that's question mark. And they're both outside of the two parallel lines. I know they're parallel again because of the arrows. So they're exterior. And they're on opposite sides of the transversal, so they are alternate exterior. And we said that alternate exterior angles are congruent. That means that their angle measures are the same. And actually what I want to show you is that when two angles are congruent, we can actually put a arc with no arrow, and that shows that they're congruent. So just like these little arrows here on these lines show parallel, A little arc inside multiple angles means that they're the same measure. And since these are alternate exterior angles formed by parallel lines in a transversal, they're congruent, which means question mark, or that angle is 63 degrees. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm always going to establish what is the relationship that I have. Well, it looks like both of these lines are between the parallel lines. Again, I know they're parallel because of the arrows. They're between the parallel lines, and they're on the same side of the transversal. So these are same side interior angles. That means they add to 180. So they're not congruent. They're not the same size. They're going to be different. But we know that they add to 180. So I can say question mark plus 101 equals 180. I'll subtract 101. And I'll get this angle to be 79 degrees. And of course, 79 and 101 will add to 180. Going to keep repeating this process. I'm going to determine what kind of angle relationship I have here. It looks like I have one inside, one in between my parallel lines. Question mark is inside, interior. 84 is exterior. I have 4 angles in this part of the picture, 4 angles in this part. Question mark is the bottom left angle. 84 is the bottom left angle. That means those are corresponding angles. And we just talked about corresponding angles being congruent, and so that means that question mark is equal to 84 degrees. And again, I want to show you that if I put an arc, that means that those angles are congruent. This last one here, again, I've got parallel lines. Both of my angles are between the parallel lines, so they're both interior. And they are on opposite sides of this transversal, so they are alternate interior. So they are going to be congruent. So I can show that they're congruent using the little arcs in each. Congruent means they're the same size, they're the same measure, so that question mark is 109 degrees. So here I want you to let's do something new today. I want you to pause the video right now and I want you to try these two and then press play, and I'm going to have my answers displayed. So make sure you pause it, try them, and then press play. So I hope you try these on your own. Check your answers here. My first figure on the left here are alternate exterior angles. They're both outside of the parallel lines. Again, I know they're parallel because of those arrows. And so they're congruent. So both of them are 80 degrees. This one over here, again, one of them's outside and one of them's inside those parallel lines. They're corresponding angles. They're both sort of the top right angle if I'm looking at those 4 and those 4. That means they're congruent. That means they're the same measure. That means that question mark is 67 degrees. And so I've got 3 for you to try sort of as a lesson check where the question is going to pop up here and you can answer it. So I'll make sure that you write the question down before, pause it, write the question down, and so when it pops up, you have the picture. So again, make sure you draw this picture or pause it and answer the question and then press play so that the question can pop up and you can answer it. So that's it. If you have any questions, make sure that you ask them in class. Class is coming up soon. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on any of this stuff.